Yeah, first impressions, I didn't really know exactly what to expect. I'd heard rumors, but to see it firsthand is definitely a lot different. I think what surprised me most was all the space there is off the tee, where you're trying to play it into other fairways or just weird stuff like that. I didn't really expect playing into opposite fairways as often as we may be doing. It can get a little dangerous out there at times, just with the way the holes crisscross. But it's a really, really special place. I can kind of see the history and see how golf was designed to be played hundreds of years ago. So it's pretty cool to see firsthand.
And how have your preparations been going as we get to the eve of the championship?
Yeah, I've just been trying to get out on the golf course and spend as much time out there as I can. Really just trying to get used to the firmness, get used to the bounces, learn as much as I can about the golf course. Just because I think once you get to a tournament like this, I'm not really going to figure out anything on the range or the chipping, short game area, whatever it is. I'm going to do most of my figuring out there on the course and just kind of get used to how it plays, where I can miss, where I can't miss, stuff like that.
Okay, we'll take questions from the floor if you raise your hand. Just gentleman in the first row.
Hi, Scottie. Alex Thomas, CNN. You did pretty well in your Open debut last year. First 3 rounds, all in the 60s. This is a different course. You mentioned the history. You mentioned the weird crisscrossing of fairways. Do you still think you can contend this week, despite everything being so strange and new?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see why not. I kind of enjoy this style of golf. It's definitely different than what I'm used to, but with how firm everything is, you have to have such good control of your ball, and I feel like that's a skill of mine, is being able to hit all different kinds of shots. And I really kind of appreciate what you have to do out here, and whether that's running a ball 40 yards up to a green or trying to hit one as high as I've ever hit in my life. Just doing all different kinds of stuff, I think, is more enjoyable for me when I get back to the States sometimes, especially after last year. I kind of missed playing over here, and so to be back is really fun and special, and I'm looking forward to doing it in competition this week.
Okay, Jeff.
You're known for the shot this year at the Masters, which was a punch shot. How far out from the greens are you willing to use that, and also how far out have you tried using putter to approach to a green here?
I've used putter pretty far out. I would say more than maybe 30 yards. It really depends on kind of what's in front of you. But I've used all the way down to maybe a 6-iron this week for different shots, and that's why I said I've been spending time out on the course, because basically I've just been going out there and Teddy's just been throwing balls around the greens, and I'm just hitting all different kinds of shots. He leaves the bag there for me and play to different pins. With how firm everything is, it seems like there's going to be certain spots where a lot of balls are going to go just based on where the wind direction is going to be. And I mean, I'll use whatever I need to use. So yeah, you might see some weird stuff this week. I mean, it's really firm out there.
What do you think of the road hole?
It's pretty funny. You hit over the hotel, and then the green, like, it is so small. And then I went down and fooled around in the bunker a bit yesterday, and I'm definitely gonna do everything in my power to not go into that bunker. It's so bad down there. But it's really cool. It's such a fun hole to play. I think that's one of the special things about this golf course, is it's so simple, but it's really fun to play. And no matter the conditions, I'm going to go out there and have a good time just hitting all kinds of weird shots.
Okay, next question, Stephanie.
Hi, Scottie. You're the world #1. It doesn't get much better than that. But what would it mean to you to go on and win this very special Open at the home of golf?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was always a dream of mine just to be able to come here and play this golf course, and so to be able to come and play this golf course in an Open Championship is going to be really special, just with the history and all the stuff I've seen at this golf course, and to be able to have a chance to win on Sunday would be really special as well. And so I'm going to go out there tomorrow and just do my best and put my head down and done what I've done all year and just go out and try and play good golf.
Okay, Doug.
A couple things, Scottie. This is a course where, depending on the wind, it could be the easiest you play, or as Jack says, the toughest into the wind, short par fours, etc. Why do you think this thing has held up so well over the years?
I think when you...
It's short by modern standards, frankly.
Yeah, but it doesn't always play short. Certain holes, depending on wind, will play really short, and then other holes will play really long. Like, for instance, I came here Sunday, #1, not much wind. I hit 5-iron lob wedge. Yesterday, the forecasted winds were like 15 miles an hour, and it was into off the left, and I barely mishit my 3-iron off the tee, and I hit 5-iron into the green. So it's like, okay, you know, that's a 15-mile-an-hour wind. And with how firm everything is, it just changes stuff so much. And then when you get a little bit of wind, all bets are off. And there's little hollows here, there's little bumps, and the greens are not easy, they're huge. And a lot of times where the greens are smaller, you may have bunkers and stuff surrounding them. So let's say I get a flyer and I airmail the green. A lot of times it'll land in a bunker. Here it's going to land 15 yards over the pin and then bound another 40, 50 yards past the pin. And then all of a sudden I have a 65-yard putt. And it's like, what the heck am I going to do now? And so standing the test of time, I think you're going to see this golf course just, if you get a little bit of wind, it just changes so severely.
And then secondly, what have you done this week that you've never done before in your life? Give me an example. Preferably on the golf course, but if you want to go beyond that, it's up to you.
I'll stick to the golf course for now. I'm trying to think. I would say this is really my first experience with an extremely firm links golf course. I think St. George's last year wasn't as firm as it is now. I think literally some of the fairways are running faster than the greens. And so when we get kind of maybe to 40, 50 yards away from the pin, when I'm using an 8 and 7 iron, I didn't use that last year. Last year it didn't really suit as much as it does now. So depending on what slopes and mounds I want to use, I'm doing various different things. Like number 9, it's so flat and it's so firm. If you're short of the green and the pin's in the back, you have like a 50-yard shot, and I'm using an 8 iron just so I can carry it 10 yards and roll it 40. And last year I may be using a 50 just because it was softer, but since it's so firm this year, you got to get the ball on the ground so it will stop. And in the States, you're trying to create spin so the ball will stop because the greens are so fast. Here it's the opposite. They're firm and slow.
Okay, Dan, on the far right.
Your rise to world number 1 was so fast and you were playing so much that you told us that nothing really changed. But now you've been on top for basically the whole summer. How are you adjusting to it, and how is the view from the top?
I mean, I guess it's good. I guess, you know, I am number 1 in the rankings. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily perceived that way by, you know, y'all or whoever it is, but that's not stuff that, you know, I really ever think about. For me, I'm just trying to go out and play good golf, and so it's definitely different. I was talking to my wife a bit at the beginning of this week. It's definitely different when I go out and play practice rounds and there's more people around, and then I'm coming in here and doing this stuff. And, you know, 6 months ago, I definitely wasn't asked to come in the press room very often unless I was winning. So there's definitely a bit more activity going on at tournaments, and that's something I'm going to learn how to navigate. I'm, you know, kind of learning on the go right now, and, you know, I sit back this off season, I'll assess, you know, kind of how much I play and stuff like that, just because it takes more energy now to show up to an event than it did before. Before I could come out here and not really have to do anything. I could just show up and play and be done. And, you know, now things are a little bit different, but, you know, it's different. You know, it's fun to be able to come in here. It's fun to be able to interact with fans during my practice rounds when things are a little bit lighter, because when you get in the heat of competition, it's a bit different. So practice rounds, you know, having some people around and getting to have some fun, has definitely been a good time, but, you know, it's something I'll assess at the end of this year.
And then you mentioned having some crazy long putts out here. Do you have any sort of methodology for that, or is it just sort of see and feel and try?
I think most of it is see, feel, and try, and then you kind of get adjusted. Most of that's just because of the green speeds. So when we see browned out greens like they are now in the States, they're usually running like a 13 or 14, and here they're a 10. And so what I've done most of the time this week is just try and get on the greens and get around them and hit as many different shots as I can, because it's so different than what we're used to. And at the beginning of the week, I was kind of still popping the ball in my stroke, like they were smaller. Like, so at home, if I take it back this far to hit a putt, here I have to take it back this far, so my rhythm's still the same. And at the beginning of the week, I was still only taking it back that little bit, and I was kind of hitting it instead of rolling it. And so basically what I did was just try and get out there and get adjusted, and just kind of get my mind in tune to the slower green speeds.
Okay, Fatia at the front right there.
Scott, you are number 1 in the world. It takes work, hard work and dedication. Could you a little bit explain to us what is the recipe to get there and to stay there?
Well, the recipe to stay there, I'm trying to figure out. But I guess getting there, yeah, a lot of hard work. And some guys do it different ways. You know, I'm someone that when I show up to an event, I want to feel like I've done everything I can to prepare for that tournament. And so when I teed up on the first tee, it's like, hey, I'm here. I did everything I could, and I'm just going to go try and do my best. And the rest really isn't up to me. Some guys have different approaches. That's always been my approach. And I've always enjoyed practicing And so for me, being able to work hard, whether it's in the gym or on the golf course, has always been enjoyable. You know, one of my favorite things at home is going out to practice when nobody's around. There's a little short game area at a course I recently joined where not many people go back there, and I can spend, 4 or 5 hours of the day back there and not see a single person, just go out there and practice. And for me, that's where I get my confidence from. And so working hard is something when, like I said, when I show up to the tournament, it's like I've done what I could, and I'm just going to go try and do my best.
Okay, question from the far right.
Scottie, you mentioned potentially going down other fairways to play your approach shots. Can you detail where you're thinking of doing that and why you think that might be the best strategy for you?
Well, the first one I'm thinking of is 13. Still haven't figured it out yet, full disclosure. But a lot of it just depends on wind direction. So, for instance, on 13, since it's so firm, and if the wind's blowing 20 off the right, a lot of these bunkers are bowls. And so when it's blowing that hard, you have to slice it against the wind and hit it low in order for that ball not to curve back to the left when the wind's blowing this way. And so when you're standing there on that tee box, if I can just hit it over those bunkers and take them out of play, because the bunkers are, it's a stroke penalty, pretty much everyone. And so if I can take that out of play and maybe hit it in the rough where it's only maybe a quarter shot or a half shot penalty, that may be the best strategy. And whether that means hitting it up the left side where it's maybe 4 fairway, and then hitting up the right side, which would be 13 fairway, or maybe it's 6. I think it's 6, yeah. Because it's 13, 5 green, 6 fairway, okay. And so that's the hole where I'm going to get on the tee box tomorrow, and I'm going to try and figure it out before based on the wind direction. But still, we stood there in the fairway yesterday for 5 minutes talking to Teddy, and I'm like, dude, still don't know a good solution. But the one we came up with yesterday was basically just going to try and hit it in the rough, we think. And that's because with the way the wind is, if you're going to try and take the bunkers out of play, there's not much more you can do other than just almost intentionally hit the ball in the rough because, the fairways are rolling faster than the greens, literally.
Okay, next question, Juan.
So, Scottie, in connection to what you were saying, I was talking to the caddies this week, and they are a little afraid of how tough it's going to be to call the shots. No? So, what is the dynamic with Ted? Will you blame? You share the blame? Will you blame him? Or?
I blame him for everything that goes wrong out there. No, yeah, the caddy's going to help, but like I said, if I'm one groove off on a shot, it's going to change it by 20 yards. And we may have everything correct and then get a little gust of wind, and it's going to change it by 20 yards. A lot of the stuff out here is so hard to predict that if you're a caddy, I would hate to be a caddy this week. It would be so hard. Whatever it is, when the wind gets to blowing like it is now, and off these fairways, I don't think people realize the ball actually spins a little bit more off this grass than it does in the States. And so when we're hitting into a 15-mile-an-hour wind, it affects the ball even more than it does at home. And it's blowing harder. So it's totally different than what we're used to. And so that's why it's up to the player most of the time to hit these weird little shots, whether it's me chipping a 5-iron trying to land at 140 or hitting an 8-iron and trying to land at 190 and hitting it straight up in the air. A lot of the stuff you can't totally predict, but you just try and use the slopes and the contours to your advantage and then kind of go from there. And so a lot of what Teddy's going to do this week is just coming up with ideas to be like, hey, use this mound. Try and use this. Not, hey, man, hit this shot 147 and aim here. It's like you can't really predict stuff like that. So the caddies, it's going to be tough.
Okay, Garrett in the back row.
Yeah, Scottie, you were talking a second ago about strategy for the course. What's your favorite challenge to the strategy of St. Andrews and also the sentimental side of it here this week, this place?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is avoiding the bunkers. The legend of Tiger, avoiding all of them for 72 holes. It's pretty cool. I still haven't figured out quite how he did that, but that's most of strategy for me on the golf course is playing angles. When things get really firm, avoid bunkers and use angles where you can, and whether that means playing down another fairway or hitting into the rough. When it gets so firm, you have to have a good angle. A lot of times people talk about that, on the coverage or whatever it is about having a good angle, but it truly applies when it's this firm.
Okay, Joy.
Scottie, I don't know how big you are on watching YouTube videos and things like that, but if you have watched a lot of Open Golf Championship on YouTube videos or in live telecast when you were growing up, which is maybe one moment or one tournament or one shot that really stood out for you that made you think, wow, this is really different?
So going into this week, yeah, I like YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan. I've watched, they have like the I don't know exactly what they're called, but each Open they have like an hour-long video where they don't show as much golf as I'd like to see, but they show enough. I watched, the coverage of when Zach won in 15 and the wind was a different direction, but I will sit and watch that stuff just because I want to see where guys hit it. You can learn a lot from watching stuff like that, and I did that before the Masters too. Brookline, there wasn't as much information. In Southern Hills, they changed, but I do learn a lot from stuff like that. I think what I always go back to is people telling all these legends where it's like one day I hit 5-iron lob wedge into a hole, and the next day I hit driver 3-wood because the wind was blowing so hard. And you don't really believe it, and then you come out here for the first time and you see it, and it's like, oh wow, that makes complete sense. And so a lot of the shots you see, like I always think of the one where Tiger hit that 3-wood and he's aiming at a certain mound, and he hits the mound and then it kicks it down out there onto the green, and he hit a perfect shot and it was 20 yards away from the pin. And so stuff like that, like guys have different strategies for playing links golf, and different things work for different people. And I'm still trying to figure mine out, but a lot of it is just kind of plotting your way around the golf course and trying to avoid those silly errors, because you can all of a sudden get into one of these pop bunkers and it'll take you 3 shots to get out, and then all of a sudden you've wasted 2 shots on a single hole, and at the end of the week that's going to make a huge difference.
Okay, Jeff.
Will you watch some of the golf before you play?
Mm-hmm.
And then, since you're in full disclosure mode, have you figured out the 12th hole?
The 12th hole.
Short par 4.
Yeah. Depending on wind direction, yes, I figured out what I want to do. Once again, there's not really a great solution. If there's a great solution, it'd be easy for guys to figure out. You kind of just, it's mostly up to what you see off the tee, and I've kind of had a good feel for what I'm going to do. But if it starts blowing straight into the wind, like I may not be able to cover those cross bunkers, and the hole's totally going to change. And but once again, that's a hole where it's like, yeah, I'm going to try and avoid the bunkers, but if it's blowing 20 in our face, those bunkers are going to be really, really hard to miss. So we'll figure it out.
Okay, microphone number 4 at the back. Yes.
Scottie, there's so much of talk about tradition here, about people who won here, people who've come 6 times to the Open at St. Andrews, etc. But you are the world number 1, 4 times winner this year. Like, how do you deal with that? Is there more pressure on you? Is there less pressure on you? And how do you look at that?
Yeah, I don't feel like there's any more pressure on me. I'm showing up like everybody else, trying to come here and play well at a golf tournament. Being the home of golf and the Open Championship definitely amplifies things a little bit, and that's across the board. But I don't think it matters if I'm number 1 in the world or number 50 in the world. I'm going to want to win this tournament as bad or more than anybody out here. And so for me, trying to take that pressure off of myself and then just going out and trying to do my best. And so, when I talked a little bit before, it's like I've prepared this week. I've gone out on the golf course. I've hit all the shots at home. I've prepared. I've practiced, and I've done what I can to play well. And when I show up on the first tee, I'm going to be comfortable knowing that I did everything I could to play well, and I'm going to go out there and just try and do my best.
Okay, we'll take the final 3 questions in the room. We'll start with microphone number 1 to the right.
Scottie, you were saying, well, you suggested earlier that you're not necessarily perceived as number 1. Could you expand on what you mean by that?
I don't feel like there's any extra attention on me. There's not, I would say, I haven't read much, but I would assume not everybody's picking me to win this week. Just stuff like that. I mean, I don't think I was the favorite maybe going into the Masters. I'm not sure if I've been the favorite really going into any tournaments. That may not be the true perception. That's just mine, but I don't read a ton of stuff. So for me, I don't really feel like whatever being number 1 would be,
Is that something you actually quite enjoy, or do you sort of foster a siege mentality with something like that? I mean, do you use that to your advantage?
It's funny. Sometimes stuff will tick me off. Other times it won't. Stuff like that doesn't really matter to me. I'm extremely competitive just in nature. That's how I am. That's how I've always been. Whether we're playing board games or pickup basketball or table tennis or whatever it is, I'm going full throttle. And then when the game ends, we're friends. We're friends during the game too. But it's not going to ruin my afternoon if I don't win a pickup basketball game. I've learned that over time. When I was a kid, that may not have been the case. But when I show up at a tournament, I'm as fired up as anybody to go out there and play. So I don't think I need any extra motivation or anything like that.
Okay, the question down in the front right.
Scottie, I was wondering whether you were encouraged by the fact that many of the champions here at St Andrews have also done quite well at Augusta, actually. You think of Nicholas, Tiger, Faldo, Zach Johnson was the last winner here.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I didn't think about that before. Those guys also won a ton of golf tournaments a lot of places. And so I think that's what's cool about some of these golf courses is you see great players win on them. And, you know, when you see guys like Nicholas and Tiger winning at a certain golf course, you know that golf course is going to reward really, really good golf shots. And I think that's something that you see when it gets really firm like this. When you hit a really well-struck golf shot and you know where the wind is going to be, you're going to be extremely rewarded for that golf shot. And so for us as players, when you come out here and you know you're going to get rewarded for playing well and punished for playing bad, I think that's what makes a golf course like this so special.
Okay, final question from Doug.
How come you don't read more?
Well, just because I don't read what you guys write doesn't mean I don't read.
I know that. I know that. College graduate, I know.
No, I mean,
school.
For me, staying off of social media, staying off of what you guys write, and I'm not saying you will write bad stuff about me or whoever it is, but your job is to write stories and be critical. I mean, that's something that you have to do. And so for me, having any extra noise inside my head, whether it be from people on social media saying, oh, you know, maybe his swing stinks or I don't know, whatever it is, like, I don't even know because I don't read it. And so for me, there's no point to it because I'm either going to get too high or too low. Like if I get on social media and all you guys, or if I start reading articles and everybody's like, hey man, Scottie's the guy to beat this week. You know, he's playing great golf. You know, even though I missed the cut last week, like, you know, number one in the world, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to show up here and be like, oh yeah, I'm the guy. Like nobody's going to beat me this week. And that's not what got me to where I am. What got me to where I am now was hard work and being prepared. And so for me, just staying away from all that stuff and showing up and doing my thing is what's always worked best. And so keeping the noise out is optimal.
I guess why I ask is it always been that way for you? Was it like that when you were at Texas? Was it like that when you first got your card in terms of trying to stay away from what others are saying or thinking about you?
Yeah, I think that's something I've learned over time. I think it's more of a curiosity at first. It's like, oh, I wonder what people think of me. And then as time goes on, you realize that it doesn't really matter as much as you think it does. Perception's what it is. And I've tried to keep my circle small with the people I trust. And those are the opinions that I value the most. And so, you know, even though we're friends, you know, you don't know me as well as my best friends know me. And so you guys in the media, you know, may have a perception of me, and I'm hoping that it's good. You know, I don't want to be perceived poorly, but at the end of the day, if I am, and, you know, my closest friends and, you know, my parents and my wife, you know, still love me and care for me and believe that I'm, you know, at least a decent guy, you know, and that I'm doing things right. Those are the opinions that I value the most. And, you know, I've been fortunate to have people in my life that will call me out when I'm not doing the right thing. And, you know, Meredith's definitely one of those people. And, you know, my parents are those people. My friends are those people. You know, my coach Randy's one of those people. And so, you know, I've been able to lean on those guys for a long time now and, you know, trust them. And when I'm doing the right thing, they'll let me know. And when I'm doing the wrong thing, they'll let me know. And those are the opinions that I value the most. And, you know, if people believe that I'm a great golfer at the end of my career, yeah, it'll be nice. But at the end of the day, that's not, you know, what I'm going to rest my head on.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we'll bring things to a close there. Scottie, thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks.
And best of luck this week.
Appreciate it.